Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, we pride ourselves here over at In the Seats to be supportive of young artists and people on the come up, people on the rise, as it were. And some even call these people the future. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do because you're listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. Hit that subscribe button. Give us the old 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts. We're available pretty much everywhere. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. It's all good. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram at, you guessed it, at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large, because if we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, we got it's a subject that's close and near and dear to our hearts. We're talking about the Future of Film Showcase, which is running here in Toronto, but also online starting this coming Friday, the 17th through the 25th. It's the Future of Film It is the Future of Film Showcase. I had to trip over my own tongue there for a sec, but it is the Future of Film Showcase. I will say that again. And it's a spotlight on the next generation of young filmmakers are out there, and it's a hybrid festival that's going to have a showcase of 14 short films. Why am I tongue-tied today? I have no idea why, but it's 14 short films in person. They're going to be screening those on the 19th in a very special event, and it's going to be taking a look at the next generation of fantastic young Canadian filmmakers, all of whom are 40 or under. And you know what? It's a fantastic event because it's one of those things where it's not just about the short films. It's about workshops. It's about keynote presentations. It's about panels and learning and people trying to make that next step in their filmmaking career. And it's also a fantastic platform for these young filmmakers to get their stuff seen, because after it screens at the festival, all these short films will be available on CBC Gem beginning on June 20th. That fast. It's an amazing thing, but we had the unique pleasure on this one to sit down with co-founder and CEO Mr. Eric Bizzari, who is a friend of In the Seats and a friend in general. But we talked about just everything they got going on with all the panels and all the showcases during the fest, and just sort of the importance of having an event like this. And it's again, it's one of those things that we here at In the Seats are happy to push and promote. And like I say, if you want to learn more about the Future of Film Showcase, please go visit their website, FOFS.ca, for ticket info and more info if you want to attend one of the screenings or the panels, or if you just want to see these short films. But first, sit down and enjoy our talk with Eric Bizzari, because it is a good one, and you'll want to listen to it before you even check out anything at the Future of Film Showcase, which is running from the 17th to the 25th. But as always, let's talk with Eric, because between you and me, this is a pretty good one.
I guess just to kick it off officially, man, Eric, thank you so much for the time today. I appreciate this. I can only imagine how busy you are right now.
It's insane a little bit, but I the same likewise. I am so grateful that you agreed to do this. I respect you, man. So thank you.
Now, I mean, obviously, the Future of Film Showcase is coming back to Scotia and online nationwide from the 17th to the 25th with a wide array of workshops and short films and a whole bunch of other stuff. But I mean, just to kick it off, I've known you for a little bit, and I mean, I'm kind of curious because I mean, you started this back in 2014. Like, talk to me about the story in the lab where sort of the idea came up, where sort of this, this super creation was born. Like, I need the origin story for the Future Film Showcase.
For sure. Yeah, so it was a friend of mine and I, Sean Joshi. So he's the president of Fay Pictures. And so he and I were sitting in a dorm room, sort of just, watching audition tapes for a film that, the first film that he ever produced. And so we were just like sitting there, and I asked him, I said, listen, what are you doing? What are we going to do with this film? Where are you going to show it? And he's like, oh, we'll just, throw it on YouTube or Vimeo. And no disrespect to anybody who decides to do that, because obviously, like doing that is important and sharing your work is important. But I sort of had a bit of a larger vision for it. I said, well, what if we did we should have like a premiere event, and we should, it was a short film though. And he's like, well, are we just going to have a 15-minute premiere for one film? And I'm like, well, let's just show a bunch of films. And I worked at an AMC in Vaughan at the time. And so I said, well, let me see if this is even possible. Like, maybe I'm just crazy. And so I went over there, and I was like, hey, spoke to my GM, and I'm like, what do you feel about this? And we want to do a screening. We want to have like a few films in here and whatever. And he's like, yeah, sure. How's Theater 24? And I don't know if you had been to the AMC in Vaughan, but Theater 24 had like almost 400 seats.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, well, that's okay. Yeah, cool. Let's do it. And so we walked around Winters College at York University, and we're just like knocking on doors, like, hey, do you have a film? Do you want to screen it in the theater? We got this opportunity. We're sort of just asking a whole bunch of people, and we were at a film production at York University. And so we asked a whole bunch of people in our year. And then we asked some of the people in our year had friends at other neighboring film schools like Sheridan and at the time Ryerson and Humber. And so we just grabbed a whole bunch of films from people around Toronto, the GTA. We actually had one film from someone she was studying at the Vancouver Film School. And so we had her send us a film as well. But anyway, so we had all these films screened. We ended up having like a 3-hour program. And I found out that the reason why my boss agreed to this to begin with was because the theater actually closed down 5 days after our event was held. So he didn't care. He's, you could take the theater, take everything. And but I'd like to think that he supported it in some way or another.
Absolutely, no, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Like he was a York University film graduate. I think back in the 90s or so. But anyway, so that happens. But then the theater is shutting down. So we sit at this bar in the plaza, and we're just sort of sitting there. Well, I guess, we can't do this again here, but we didn't plan on doing it again to begin with. It was just, it was that one-time screening. But then there was a guy there who sort of looks at us and he says, well, what if you continued to do it? What if you just had another year and just had it at a different theater? But like Sean and I were not, we weren't event organizers. We weren't, we didn't think about the business perspectives and possibilities. It was more so like having this one screening for that film that he did. And long story short, it ended up, we got the FOFS Theater in the Beaches in Toronto in our second year. We paid for the venue. So this was the first time that we sold tickets to it. But then submissions were free. So people could just, anybody could submit. And then there was a group of us at York that sort of came together, a group of us at York in the film program. And then we sort of, for just like one weekend, I think maybe just over 100 films were submitted. Or no, sorry, actually, my mistake. So we decided to make it only Canadian short films and filmmakers that we screened. So we sort of honed in on some sort of a vision and mandate for this showcase. And we ended up getting from across the country, over 1,000 submissions. Now, granted, the submissions were free. Sometimes people just go ahead and they just blindly submit. Sure. But out of those 1,000, just over 100 were actually only Canadian and short films under 20 minutes. And so we ended up, for one weekend, we would watch these shorts in a classroom at York, and just sort of, rate them and decide, which ones we were going to screen. Then in our third year, which was really interesting, is I said, well, and then I worked at a Cineplex at the time, and I said, what if we went to Cineplex? What if we pitched them? And again, I just to preface this, me working there had nothing to do with how we got them, because it was a completely different ball game. It was, we were going to head office, and we were, we built a pitch deck, we built a PowerPoint presentation. We went to their head office and we talked to them about it. And they were like, well, yeah, sure. Let's just, let's give you the Canada Square Theatre, Yonge and Eglinton. So then third year rolls around, Canada Square comes in, we host the event there, and it's not nearly as successful as we thought it would be. It was like just under 100 people actually showed up. And so we said, well, we didn't sell out the theater. We didn't really get a lot of people. How is Cineplex really going to take this? So we take that back to them, and they go, well, no kidding. You got under 100 people. We put you at Canada Square. Let's bring you to Scotiabank. So then in our fourth year, we went to Scotiabank. We sold out for the very first time. And that was also the year we were graduating York. So we had a big turnover from the fourth year to the fifth year.
For sure.
And then from there, it just started to become like, we registered it as a not-for-profit organization. Granted, that was in our second year, but we actually started to really investigate more of the business principles and everything. And, we sort of reached, I don't want to say a wall, but we reached this like sort of plateau of like, okay, well, clearly this can be successful. There is a want for Canadian shorts. How do we actually build this? I didn't go to business school. I had no idea, how to sort of develop this and how to develop a team. And, so, I mean, any success that we've ever had with the festival is just a testament to everybody that has come over the last, now we're in our 9th year, people that have come in over the last 9 years, like, the people that helped design our logo, helped build the foundation. And, fast forward to now, it's, now we've built a robust industry program and professional development opportunities. We have co-partnerships with TIFF Next Wave and the Images Festival, and sponsors like Telefilm, the Canada Media Fund, Warner Brothers Discovery. So it's quite, and of course Cineplex and CBC Gem. So it's quite exciting to have built it from the ground up there. But and obviously I'm missing tons of details, but that's to give you an overview of where we've been.
But I mean, the thing I've always appreciated about the Future Film Showcase and what you guys are doing is just because this industry evolves so quickly and it moves so fast. I mean, there isn't necessarily, a class on how to pitch, or a class on how to raise money, or a class on how to deal with the Producers Guild, or that kind of thing. And I mean, you guys have workshops, you have things going on in that front. Can you talk a little bit just about sort of the importance of, it seems like this is very much a participatory event. Like if you get involved, you're going to want to stay involved because you're going to learn a lot. Can you talk a little bit about sort of that angle that you guys take with this festival?
Yeah, of course. So as we were building more so what the mandate of the festival was, we essentially arrived at, fostering the future of emerging Canadian talent, but then also through our name, holding ourselves accountable to what we feel the future of film looks like, but also in this case, the future of Canadian film. And so what does the future of Canadian film look like? And we ask ourselves, when people attend the festival, and us being filmmakers, a lot of us ourselves, what do we want people to actually get out of attending the festival, right? And it's one thing to go in, screen your film, and go home. But what if you were to come in, screen your film, then attend a panel, but attend panels that you could actually like derive some sort of information from? Like, I don't know about you, but I find attending industry events very, I get a lot of anxiety sometimes because
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I sometimes I feel like to be in a room with creatives can be the most beautiful thing and can also be the most anxious thing, right? Because it's like everybody wants, in a way, what you want. And so how could we make those sort of events happen, but happen in a way that feels a lot more inclusive, that feels like a safe and comfortable environment? And so we thought, okay, well, what do people attending the festival really want to learn about, right? So like we got a lot of feedback on over the last few years that, you know, not necessarily us per se, but in general, people weren't really learning about the business of film and television. Like, as you said, right? Like how to deal with the unions, how to deal with guilds, and how to actually raise money and get funding. Like, I feel like there's a lot of panels about how to get your projects funded, but they sort of scratch the surface. Like, how do I really do it? Like, what are the individual programs I can apply to and whatnot? And so we created, you know, the web and TV series workshop this year, where we have the world premieres of 2 web series, and then 1 web series has already been released on Gem. But the creators of those shows are coming in, you know, and talking about the conception to funding, and we're actually hearing from the source. And then, you know, we created something where, like, our virtual coffees, where people can actually sign up for one-on-one 15-minute sessions with different mentors. And so we're giving them sort of exclusive access to these people that they could just, you know, one-on-one talk to. That sometimes, you know, I find that you have to email 15 different people to actually finally get the person that you want. And
For sure.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, more to your question, it's like, you know, at the end of the day, we want people to come in and enjoy the programming and enjoy our films. But if you're not selected for the festival, you know, because we have such a limited programming space, we want you to learn something. We want you to come in and we want you to engage in our industry events and actually get something out of that experience, if that makes sense.
No, it does, because I mean, this, at the end of the day, this is such a social business. And I mean, having that sort of skill set to engage and talk to people and learn, I mean, it's important. And it's one that, I mean, kind of gets overlooked, because I mean, the reality is you can find sort of the future of Canadian cinema just by, you know, bumping into somebody at a bar at one of these events, if you know, if things happen right. And I mean, just to transition off that, because I mean, there's something that you're doing that I absolutely love. For the first time, you're actually showing a feature-length film. And I mean, speaking of future Canadian cinema, I definitely think Haya is one of those people. I mean, because she made such a beautiful film. And like, for you guys, how important was it to sort of put a feature up there? Because given the nature of the business and the nature of the shifting in technology, I mean, we all have cell phones. We could make a feature if we wanted to. It's just a question of doing it right and like learning sort of the ins and outs. How important was it for you to sort of have a feature there? Because it is definitely sort of that next step for people who come out of film school making short films. There is going to be that evolution.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great question, because that was something that we really went back and forth between, even as early as last year. We wanted to do it last year. We had a plan to, we were looking at different, you know, first features, and but I guess, listen, the main point of this is we've been trying to grow exponentially every year. And something that I learned in doing this is when you grow too quickly, things can get unmanageable, right? Yeah. Like you have too much programming and everything. And so like the thought of having a feature in a time where we were still doing a fully virtual festival didn't feel like the right time. It didn't feel like the right opportunity, but it was really important for us this year, because this year we made it our goal to expand our programming in a way that we weren't just attracting audiences that made short films, or even in this case, even films, because we've expanded with our web and TV series workshop. We've expanded with our location managers panel, even our opening keynote. One of our opening keynotes is Iris Kim. She's a music video and commercial director, right? So like, being able to tap into different mediums within the industry. And so the thought of a feature was like, what if we were to still maintain like a first feature by a Canadian filmmaker, an emerging Canadian filmmaker, and brought them to the festival? That can open up, you know, a different side of our audience. And it's sort of that necessary step, I feel like, too, right? Because we also try to bring people in that have like expanded into not even feature length territory, but also just like a more expansive territory aside from shorts, because we feel that the step, for example, from filmmakers who are trying to get there is, something I found very helpful is talking to the people that have done it, like talking to sometimes I find just talking to broadcasters, just distributors is really nauseating sometimes, but it's the best way, because obviously we're partnered with some of them, but it's also, but speaking like Haya specifically, like I went to go see Quickening when it released in theaters a few months ago, but then it was at TIFF as well in September 2021. So that feature, I think, is a huge testament to what a short film filmmaker can rise up to, can level up to. So it's just an honor to have her film in the program with us and have her attending.
Well, for sure, yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things where, given the nature of the business and given sort of the nature how content is evolving out there, it feels like the demand or the need for short form content has never been stronger. It really does seem like an interesting time, because I mean, you could say even 10 years ago, people's like, oh, why does somebody make a short? Oh, was it a proof of concept? Was it this? Was it something else? It's like, no, there is value in the short form storytelling. And I mean, I'm kind of curious from your perspective, because I mean, as much as people will come in who are sort of in the know and in the industry and whatnot, you may have some people come in just out of the blue going, oh, I want to support Canadian cinema. How do you sort of sell this festival to them with the short form product?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think that's been, I would say, one of the obstacles that we've had is like trying to engage in a market or people necessarily that may not have any knowledge of film and just sort of want to watch it for entertainment purposes, right? So they're coming in and we've had people like that. We've had people that have just come in because they saw us promoting, or they saw us on some sort of events list, and they were like, oh, this is cool. This is some sort of this is a unique, film event. Let's attend. And I don't know, I guess how would we it's more so, I guess, getting with marketing specifically, I think it's really important to get as many images out there as possible and be very transparent with what the programming looks like.
For sure.
And we try to get programming that is attainable to audiences, but also challenging in the best way. And I think that's what our shorts program specifically does as well, is it challenges audiences' perceptions and interests. And it's certainly taught me a lot. It's a huge testament to our programmers, our director of programming, Zach Goldkind, and our associate programmers as well, who made it their mission to find films that could challenge audiences, and that people aren't necessarily, stories people aren't necessarily used to seeing. And I'm proud to say that this is one of our most diverse lineups ever. Yeah, I'm really proud of that.
Well, and you know what I mean? I think especially on that note, and I mean, not just for the filmmakers and for people attending, I think what you guys are doing is really a fantastic example of the fact that going forward, programming is going to be so much more important than ever, being conscious of that and really sort of understanding the need for that. Because I mean, whether you're trying to sell out a theater at Scotiabank or just to get people to turn it on CBC Gem at some point later in the month, it's important. And it's something that can't be ignored. You can't just go by sort of metrics or this or that, or, oh, it's got a dinosaur in it or whatever. You have to sort of be conscious of the kind of programming that you're putting out there.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what we've learned ourselves. Because like I said, a lot of us, when we started, we didn't have any sort of idea of what programming a festival meant. And I think as the years have gone on, we've really held like I said before, we've really held ourselves accountable to what we feel the future of Canadian film looks like. And the future of Canadian film is, not a program dominated by one specific identity or one specific story. And it's challenging because we're constantly trying to find, the stories that are not only interesting, but also films in which filmmakers are bringing a very unique aesthetic consideration to, and sort of bringing this unique and original story. And if it has a dinosaur in it, I'm sure that'd be a pretty cool plot twist. But yeah, I think short film making is so unique, and the depths to which filmmakers are willing to go to share their stories is just so exciting.
Now we're a little more than a week away, but I mean, if somebody wants to come down and take part, I mean, even if it's just the screenings, like where can people sort of find more information on everything you guys are going to be doing? Because there's so much.
Thank you. FOFS.ca. So FOFS.ca, we have a list of all of our festival programming. So you can check out every single event happening between June 17 to 25. As well as our shorts program. And then there will be a link to where you can watch the short films on CBC Gem. So FOFS.ca will have all of that.
And you know what? I mean, especially in this town, it's one of those things where I'm glad to see events that are encouraging people to come together, because I mean, given obviously the events of the past few years where we've all been sort of on Zoom calls like we are now, doing business and sort of interacting, we've forgotten sort of the nature of the business of storytelling, which is people talking to people. And that's so important at the end of the day. And I'm so glad you guys are doing this and just getting this out there, not just for audiences, but for future filmmakers, with a little bit of a guiding hand to sort of try to make that next step.
I really appreciate that, David. That was a huge sort of conversation that we've been having year to year. Like in 2020, the week that we booked our the same week that we booked our dates for the festival, they also canceled our dates. So that was very disheartening. And then last year, we were actively planning for a hybrid, virtual and in person, and then that shut down. And this year was like, this is yes, in person, yes, okay, crossing fingers, knocking on wood and everything, and it looks like it's going through. And and I do want to say that we've made, over the last few years, like we've made a commitment to making our festival more accessible. And so the majority of our digital content, and then our in-person screenings our digital is closed caption, and then our in-person events are open caption, and then we have ASL interpreters in person as well, to help the deaf and hard of hearing. And aside from that, we're also implementing a vaccine mandate for the festival this year. So we have some immunocompromised members on our team and filmmakers and such. So to make it as safe as possible, those are things that we're implementing. And I look forward to continuing, and in our 10th year next year, just continue building.
Well, you know what, that dovetails into my last question, just to put a bow on all this. For you going forward, like the growth of this festival, is it like you said before, just hoping for those incremental jumps, or are there any sort of secret plans that you've got brewing in the back of your brain that you want to make a big splash with in years future?
Well, this was the first year, last year as well, that we've locked in opening keynotes. And so we had the absolute pleasure of speaking with so many individuals who were options for opening keynotes this year. And we really hope to, I guess, something brewing, if you will, is, next year, bringing another great opening keynote speaker to kick off the festival. And it's our 10th year. So we have maybe plans to, make something that brings together our alumni of the festival somehow, both people that worked for us as well as filmmakers. There are a million and one ideas, but I guess I will open that door once this finishes.
on June 26th, right?
June 26th. Yeah, exactly. June 26th, 8 a.m. That's it. We're back on. But yeah, I guess that's the goal, is really just it's a huge milestone. And I'll say this, I said this before, I'll say this again, like this was never planned. Never. Like this was never expected. And the fact that this has been able to grow in a healthy way over the last 9 years, and to have support from people like yourself and others is it's honestly just incredible. Like it makes me so emotional, and I'm gonna be an emotional wreck coming back in person. That's just gonna it was always a dream of mine when I was younger, right? To have, to hold screenings. I used to get stuffed animals and put them on chairs in my basement and pretend we were at a screening, you know what I mean? And now there are real people sitting in chairs for screening that I organize. It's kind of insane. So
Eric, man, I absolutely love that. And I mean, the reality is in this world, the best things in life never are planned. I mean, I was thinking about this podcast. I was thinking about In the Seats, for years, but until I just buckled down and then did it,
yeah.
it's just one of those things where sometimes you just got to do it, and something magic, something really magical can grow out of that. And I think you guys are doing a great job. And man, I can't wait for year 10. Honest to God, man, keep doing the good work. And thank you so much for the time today.
Of course. Thank you, Dave. And hope to see you at this year's festival next week.
For sure. Absolutely.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.